Wildfires are ravaging our planet, increasing year by year. Can we stop them before it's too late? About 1.5 million square miles, or 990 million acres of Earth's land, is destroyed by wildfires each year. A wildfire is an uncontrolled fire that burns in wildland vegetation, forests, grasslands, savannahs, and other ecosystems. They're an essential part of nature, but they can also cause devastation to infrastructure, our atmosphere, and unfortunately cause loss of life. So there are three types of wildfires. Ground fires, which ignite in the soil and smolder underground and through forest beds, and these are usually caused by lightning. And then there's surface fires, which happen just above ground, and they're also the most common type of wildfire. And then the last and most destructive form, which are crown fires. These happen when the leaves and canopies of trees ignite, and these typically can sweep over millions of acres of land. So the first wildfire ever recorded was in the late Silurian fossil record, 420 million years ago, found by the fossils of charcoalified plants. This was about 23 million years after the planet's first mass extinction, the late Ordovician extinction event, which caused a massive ice age for over 1 million years, and then a rapid global warming which likely caused many wildfires. Today, many government organizations around the world are finding that over the last decade, we're experiencing a significant increase in wildfires globally. One example is Canada's 2023 wildfires that are happening right now at the time of filming this video, which we'll get into later. Over 85% of wildfires are caused by humans, with the other 15% happening naturally, mostly due to low voltage hot lightning strikes, but also because of meteors, volcanoes, and coal seam fires, where layers of coal in Earth's crust are ignited. The fires caused by humans are due to leaving campfires unattended, burning debris, equipment malfunction, throwing cigarettes, fallen power lines, and acts of arson. In 2007, the Ham Lake fire in the Superior National Forest in Minnesota destroyed over 75,000 acres and hundreds of properties from a single campfire. In 2018, the most deadly wildfire in California's history was caused by a fallen power line owned by the Pacific Gas and Electric Company. It caused over $17 billion in damage, and the company had to file for bankruptcy. Flicking cigarette butts is another culprit of human-made wildfires, with over 100,000 globally. However, these numbers have been gradually decreasing since the 1990s, for two reasons. One, people are smoking less. As of 2023, less than 12% of the adult population smoked cigarettes, compared to 50% of all adults in only the 1940s. And the second reason is due to the Fire Safe Cigarette Act of 1990, where the National Institute of Standards and Technology developed a standard for testing the ignition property of cigarettes to make them more fire resistant. Another way we're combating wildfires is through a method of controlled fires called prescribed burning. This is where teams of fire experts intentionally light certain areas on fire to restore health to the ecosystems, prepare extremely fire-prone areas by reducing future risks, and to rid of invasive species, pests, insects, and disease that threaten ecosystems. So whenever a wildfire starts, authorities called wildfire managers are called in to assess the threat. They typically ask two questions. One, where is it located? And two, is it a threat to humans and property? If the wildfire is in a human area, it has to be extinguished. But if it's in a natural environment, such as large national parks and deep forests where it's been started by lightning, they usually let it burn its course to benefit the ecosystem. Fire managers can't always predict where wildfires will happen. However, the U.S. Department of Agriculture Fire Service is working with them to create a system of evaluating forecasts and data systems to implement the Severe Fire Weather Index, which is a system that shares wildfire-prone areas. What we do know is that there's certain regions of Earth that have significantly more wildfires than other areas. For instance, the western US, mainly California, Texas, Oregon, and Washington State. The most severe wildfires in this area were in 2020, which burned over 4 million acres and sent toxic smoke over 3,000 miles to New England. It's a worrying trend amongst officials that 7 of the most destructive wildfires in California's history have happened in only the last 5 years. And it's not a coincidence, it's a climate crisis. In fact, the rapid global rise of temperature is causing extended droughts, and fire seasons are gradually disappearing across the planet, causing the conditions for wildfire to become more widespread year-round. One example is the Amazon rainforest and Brazilian Pantanal that were hit hard in 2019 to 2020. The Brazilian Pantanal is the largest tropical wetland on Earth and the most biodiverse ecosystem. And in 2020, 1/5 of its land burned due to land clearing for agriculture. NASA's estimated that over 7,800 square miles of land have been destroyed. And due to these wildfires, over 40% of the Amazon has reached a point where it's no longer classified as a rainforest, but a savanna. The Amazon is vital for absorbing carbon from our atmosphere. So these wildfires not only added unimaginable amounts of CO2 to the atmosphere, but it prevents our planet from filtering it back out. Another region on Earth that has the most wildfires is Siberia, Russia, and the Arctic. They've recently had record-breaking zombie fires, which are a type of ground fire that burns under the permafrost and layers of ice. This is devastating because a significant portion of Earth's carbon, methane, and carbon dioxide are stored in organic matter in the Arctic's permafrost. So when this permafrost thaws, it releases these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and accelerates global warming. Carbon emissions from wildfires in the Arctic have increased by more than 30% since 2019, releasing over 500 megatons of carbon since. Northern latitude forest fires are amongst the highest source of CO2 emissions in the world. Since 2021, over 1.76 billion tons of carbon dioxide were released from the boreal forest wildfires of North America, Asia, and Europe, which is 150% more than from 2000 to 2020. Now there is a catch to measuring CO2 in the atmosphere. Since it lasts so long, it can be hard to tell if the increase is from wildfires or burning fossil fuels, which takes the cake for CO2 emissions. So scientists can instead measure how much carbon monoxide there is because it only lasts about a month. So if there's an anomaly in carbon monoxide, then it's due to wildfires. And the other two prominent regions for wildfires in the world are Indonesia and Australia, which have had hundreds of millions of acres burned over the last 5 years, killing billions of animals and putting over 100 species into the endangerment of extinction. And for North America, at the beginning of 2023, Canada takes the spotlight, with over 11 million acres burned. Scientists have confirmed that human-caused climate change is the aggravator. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the destruction of wildfires. But I want to shift the tone a bit, because they're actually a mechanism of nature that's very important for the balance of life. For instance, there are actually some types of plants that require wildfires for the survival of their species through evolution. One example is there's a few types of cone trees that have evolved to include a flammable resin that feeds fire. Their cones must be heated by fire so they can open and germinate. They require wildfire every few years to once per century, or their species can't continue. So fires are essential. Ground fires clear out shrubs and underbrush, which provide essential nutrients to the soil and allow sunlight to touch the ground so that trees can continue to grow. In the same way that keeping a plant in a small pot inhibits its growth, therefore you should put it in a bigger pot. Mother Nature works the same way. It's crazy how a disaster like wildfire, which is so unorderly and destructive, is built into the balance of life. How our grand design includes such a small, random chance of error, a force woven into the fabric of nature that both takes life and grants it.